Saturday is the first day of archery and crossbow season for white-tailed deer. If you're curious about how to hunt in New River Gorge National Park and Preserve, we got some answers for you.
Saturday, September 30th, is the first day of archery and crossbow season for white-tailed deer. Anyone interested in getting out and hunting this season is likely considering their options as far as location. Hunting in the New River Gorge National Park and Preserve is one of these options. Hunters just need to make sure they understand where hunting is allowed.
So hunting is allowed in any of the areas of the park designated as National Preserve, which is most of the park, about 90% of it is designated as National Preserve.
Hunters must also understand where hunting is not allowed.
The places where you cannot hunt in the park are the places designated as National Park, which basically are the four locations at Sandstone Falls, Thurman, Grandview, and then what we call the Lower Gorge, which is much of the northern part of the park up around the Canyon Rim area, around the New River Gorge Bridge, that area.
When hunting in the preserve, the West Virginia Department of Natural Resources hunting regulations are all followed. It is also important to remember that it's not just like any old woods. No permanent tree stands are permitted, and no nails or screws can be used in any trees. Trapping is not permitted, and baiting is considered feeding the wildlife and therefore is not allowed. And if you just want to take a hike through the gorge, it's always good to be aware of your surroundings.
For hikers in the park during deer season, we would definitely recommend staying in the areas designated as National Park, staying away from the preserve areas where people might be hunting.
If you're a hunter, you may be wondering, so how do I know the areas of the park where hunting is permitted?
One thing I would recommend to anybody hunting in the park, if you're not sure where to go and what's part of the National Preserve versus what's part of the National Park, go to our website, and on our hunting page on the website we've got a whole series of maps there for all the park boundaries to show you what's in the park and what's out, because that's confusing sometimes. The park is a little complicated and there's a lot of private land within, and make sure you're on federal land if you're hunting out here. Obviously, if you're on private land, you need to get permission from the landowner.
With all the change that came from the National Park designation, as far as hunting goes, it has stayed somewhat consistent.
So it's pretty similar to when it was a national river. We already had areas of the park that hunting was not allowed, and for the most part, those are the places that are now the designated national park sites around Thurmond, around Sandstone Falls, Grandview. Now, Grandview, we actually expanded the hunting area by a bit. The boundary came uphill a little bit, right up to Grandview top, so there's a little bit more area down there open to hunting. Then the Lower Gorge, which is kind of that area in the park in the north end of the park around Canyon Rim up to Hawk's Nest. There's a few places in there that might have changed the boundaries a little bit, but pretty much very similar to the way it was before we were designated National Park and Preserve.
Reporting from the New River Gorge, Newswatch 4.